Okay.
This goes till 2.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how long it needs to go till. I'm gonna get your banana out of here.
Good for you.
I can't eat a banana right now. Okay, where are we at? Oh, did you put it out there, you dork? Okay, I can't see Rosie too well. All right, guys, I'm working on it, but let me tell you, I'm a little discombobulated because we're so busy today. So thank you for joining. If you're here, we're trying to get all the cameras situated. How's this one look over here?
You want to do in frame or do you want the chair in frame?
I want in frame, but I'm gonna, maybe if you could flip those around so that I can see. We're gonna get there, guys. We're gonna get there. Flip the view of the camera around, which is here. Flip. And then this. That way I can see if I'm in frame. I'm gonna need to clean this lens. Better. Welcome. Instagram or TikTok. I don't know which one of these is which. I think this is Instagram. And YouTube. Hooray! We've done it. Okay. So I'll go over who I am, what we're doing here, and all the tools I need to get started. And my husband is going to go fetch all of those so that I have them. Oh, he fetched them already. Okay. My name is Kim. I teach upholstery and furniture restoration from my design studio here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We've had a very full week. We're just now coming back from tour. And so we're picking up the pieces of a renovation that didn't get finished in time. And we're also bringing on classes and stuff. So we have students here today who are working on their projects. And I'm working on this Spoonback chair here right behind me. The goal today is to finish this chair. So the first step is we're going to put the fabric on the front of the seat. After that's on securely, we're going to go to the back of the seat and we're going to put the barrier fabric on there. Then we're going to put the batting on. Then we're going to put the final fabric on. And then the last step is to put on the welt trim. Now, I don't know if we'll get to the welt trim today, but I am pretty confident that we'll get to the rest. It's getting hot in here already, so I'm going to take that off. And if you guys can hear me, someone give me a thumbs up in the comments section because it looks like my microphone is working okay, but I always like to get verification before I get too crazy. What do we got? Can you guys hear me out? All right. I'm just going to assume that you can. I'm hoping for the best here. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is lay this chair back so that I can access it from above. That's going to give me better leverage. Also, I'm a short, so I can reach it a little bit better. But I want to protect the wood that we finished last time we were in class. So I'm going to put a piece of foam down behind it. And I always pick it up to lift it. I never drag it around. I say that I never drag it around. I definitely do drag it around. Don't drag it around. If I can get one for under the legs too. You don't want to find yourself scratching up the finish after you've already done all the upholstery. Okay, now I'm going to move my cameras in place so that you guys can see from above. My OBS isn't working properly today, and I paid a guy to set that up for me, so I don't know how to do it myself. Ooh. So I'm just going to arrange all these cameras so that you guys can see what I'm doing from different angles. Brooks, you're safe to walk behind you now. There's no... last one. Let's see. Can this go way up? I can. I'm figuring it out. There we go.
Out.
Do that.
Towards you too.
Yeah, I think that looks good. We got some over here. Hey, Jody Barr, thanks for watching. Okay, so now I'm ready to kind of start placing my fabric. We cut this in the last class so that we wouldn't have to worry about doing it today. But essentially, the piece that I've cut is long enough to go from the top to the bottom of the frame where it's going to staple through the chair, plus 4 inches, and then wide enough to go to the widest part of the chair here, plus 4 inches. I think it's a little bit longer because we just took the whole width of the fabric, but this is a velvet. So we want to make sure that the velvet is going in the same direction as the seat. Otherwise, those two fabrics will look like two different colors together. The other thing that we want to do is make sure that the velvet is wiping down. When someone sits in a chair, they start up here and they smooth down. If you do that in the opposite direction of the nap of the velvet, it will damage the velvet permanently. So you want to make sure you put it on in the right direction. And this can be a pretty fragile velvet. Thank you. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to mark the center of the fabric here on top by just snipping out that little corner. I folded it in half and I snipped out the little corner. And then I'm going to do the same thing here at the bottom and snip the little corner. And that way when I tuck everything through the bottom, I'll still be able to center it at the bottom. And I need a staple gun. So I use a pneumatic stapler to attach this panel. You can use a manual stapler or an electric stapler. I prefer a pneumatic stapler because you can adjust the pressure. So if the wood is hard, you'll be able to adjust that. That's something you won't be able to do with a manual stapler or an electric stapler. So and this is true for all of the panels of material that I have to put on this chair. We start off by attaching it in the center here. I'm going to make some relief cuts down at the bottom, and then I'm going to attach it in the center at the bottom. Then I'm going to attach it at the center at the side, attach it at the center of this side, attach it in the corner down here, attach it in the corner up here, attach it in the corner down there, attach it in the corner up here. And that's going to stretch out this material evenly across the surface of the frame before I start riddling it with staples. It's called staple mitigation, people. You need to, the long one. You need to consider it because that's like the biggest thing that gets people frustrated is staple removal, especially in a chair like this where you're having to staple everything real tight up against the show wood and there's kind of a little channel there. It's difficult to remove the staples. So if you don't put all the staples in right away, you'll save yourself some staple removal later. So first, I'm going to attach one staple here in the center. I do need to connect a hose for that. And you can use what's called a temporary staple here too. That's instead of stapling down flat, you tip it up just a little bit and that'll give you a little bit of a gap underneath that staple so you can get a tool under there to remove it. These first handful of staples can be temporary staples. I'm going to do that because I hate scratching up my frame removing staples. And I know that it's going to be a little bit of a back and forth to get this stretched where I need it. So I want to make sure that I don't put too many in to mess me up. So I'm also bringing the center notch that's down here as close to the center as I can get. And right now I'm just sort of pre-tucking this fold in around the surface. I have some cuts that I have to make. You can't see them from the front, but there's 3 pull-through spot or 3 barriers that create a pull-through spot all around the edge. There's a piece of wood that goes through the middle here, another one that goes through this side, another one that goes through this side, and we have to make cuts to get around those. So we're going to make relief cuts so that this panel can go through the middle and these panels can go through the side. So here, I know I need to get my centerpiece centered as much as possible. I'm just going to pre-tuck it in the edge there. That's going to protect me from cutting too much material, but it's also going to hold this taut so that I can stretch it around the rest of the frame. Next, I'm going to follow that around and pre-tuck these areas too. I'm not going to make my cuts on this side though until I get my initial cuts here in the center and tuck that center panel through, so that way I can lock the center down and it won't move side to side on me. But it is helpful to pre-tuck everything before you get going so that you don't miscut your fabric. Now on some chairs that are curved back like this, the curve is so intense that you're not going to be able to do this with like one piece of fabric. You're going to have to make a seam at the bottom and put a skirt on it. That's not the case with this fabric, so I don't want to get too deep in the woods on it. But this isn't going to be how you do it for every chair that has a curve in the back. It's going to be different for some. I don't know where I put the scissors already. What did I cut? Waiting on scissors. What did I cut already? Huh? What?
Made notches.
Oh, right. I think on the top of this somewhere, probably. Okay, so now I'm going to feel for that first barrier, which is right here in the middle, and I can put my finger at either side of it. That's going to help me decide where to cut. I'm making what's called a Y cut. Let me see if I can get this, all these cameras in the right direction. Yeah, can see that. You can see that? Okay, so the barrier, the part of the frame that I can't get around, is right here in the middle, and I have one finger on each side of it here. I'm going to put my whole hand in there, pre-tuck that, put my finger to either side of it, and look at where it comes out. Now, I could mark this if I wanted to, but I don't need to mark it, and I'm afraid to bring a Sharpie out at this point in the game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut straight for the middle of that barrier, and then I'm going to go off to the side and off to the side to create what is called a Y cut. Now I'm not going all the way down with this. You can always make the cut longer, but you can't uncut it. But that's what that looks like. And this little bit folds under in front of the frame, and the other two pieces are almost ready to tuck down those holes. But there's another cut I got to make over here, and now that I have a relief cut in there, I can feel inside for that other barrier, which I might be cheating and feeling around the back side. That one is about this wide on this side. Pre-tuck everything in between so that everything is almost as like taut as it can get on the front. Protect my fabric by pre-tucking that fold in there, but I'm not tucking anything back yet. And I'm putting my hand in there to feel for that other barrier. We got it, it's about this wide right here. So now we're gonna make our Y cut for that barrier. This time I'm not gonna cut down as long as I would because I'm not getting like the full stretch that I wanna get to make sure it fits. So I wanna give myself some space in case I made a cut mistake. This will give me a little bit of tolerance. All right, feeling for that barrier right here, one on either side. So pre-tuck that. That's a hard one for you to remember. Then you're just going to want to mark it with like some chalk or a light pencil So now I have those initial cuts made. I can tuck these little flaps down through that first pull through spot. And that's going to anchor that down in the center, but I have to flip this up so that I can put some staples down in the bottom and the back. Cross, can you help me with this? Maybe I got it. Okay, let's flip to the back side here.
Barely, so we got to scooch in.
Yeah. You go ahead and scooch. Okay. Good. Okay. So this is all excess material. This can actually be trimmed off now. This does not need to be here. It doesn't need to be this long. I want to trim everything back to the inside of the frame so that it doesn't stick out so you can't see it later on. I'm being very careful not to cut the material I just pushed through there. And see how that flap is exactly as wide as that opening? That's because we cut for this barrier and we cut for these two barriers here. This one is a little shorter than I need, so we might have to check our cut on there. But here I can just pull this nice and taut, and I'm going to drop one temporary staple on this side. I'm going to do the same thing here, then tip it back in the other direction so that I can see the front and we can finish. We're actually, I might not have to tip it back now that we have that done. So I'm going to move you to the front. Excellent. Now this is encouraging because this little fold right here goes straight down and I can see some symmetrical pulls in this direction. It's a little heavier on this side than this one, which tells me it could be heavier with more material twisted to that side than it is this side. And that was the problem side that I was having. But overall, it's a fairly symmetrical hold. Now all I have to do is stretch out from this direction to get that to tighten up on the front. And as we do everything on the sides here, it's going to pull out and away from that center area. So that is the goal. So now we have to pre-tuck these side areas. Actually, let's get these top sides temporary stapled first. So I got center up here, center down here at the bottom in the back of the chair. Now I'm going to do center-ish over here. I want this to be tight like a trampoline. So don't be shy, but if you pull it too tight, it's not going to look great and you're not going to be able to match the tension. It's going to look real bumpy. So we got one temporary staple there. Come back over here. Right across from that area, we're going to put another one. And do a temporary staple there. Now you can see how it's starting to flat everything out. The next one I'm going to do is going to be corner staple right up here, up like basically centered between this staple and this staple. I'm pulling out this way, but I'm also pulling away from this staple and away from this staple to get a nice tight pull. Now these staples are going right up next to the wood this time. We've left a gap up until now. When we put the barrier fabric on, we didn't put it right up to the wood. When we put the foam on, we didn't put it right up to the wood. When we put the batting on top of that, we didn't put it right up to the wood. But the fabric now can go right up to the wood, and that's going to leave us a nice clean edge for trim. So we'll do the other corner. And here I can already tell this staple is going to have to get moved because of how this fabric falls and wrinkles down here. So that means it's like twisted up too far. So I'm going to take this center staple out. Thank you, my love. And then I'll be able to readjust where that staple goes to make sure I don't have any excess. But now it's doing something different. So I'm going to take this one out. It's always going to be a back and forth until you get everything in the right place. So don't be afraid to take out staples as you go. I'll do one right here. Okay, now I'm all stuck up there. I'm going to bring one down here right to where the armpit is, because that's going to stretch it across in this direction so that it holds that in place when I get ready to take this around the side. So one over here, I'm pulling down away from that staple and straight across to make it taut in the front. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Again, down from the last staple, make it taut between staples and directly across from the last one. This is helping us to stretch our material out across the surface before we litter it with staples so that we don't end up having to pull out 200 bajillion staples as we go. So now we've got to figure out what's going on here. And this might end up getting a seam that we got a hand stitch. It looks like that might be the case. First, I want to see what I can do down here. And I got to remove the material from the back first. This is just making all that stuff that comes out flush with the back of the seat, or like tuck just inside of it so you don't see a lump here on the back. Now it's out of our way. We've got one more in the back here to do. Excellent. Okay. So sometimes these panels, because of this curve, have to be patterned so that they can be sewn right here where it makes it easier for them to take this corner and you don't see any of that wrinkling right there. Sometimes the fabric is stretchy enough that you can stretch around it. This doesn't appear to be the case. This is going to need a seam that goes right here. And sometimes you can take that apart and you can sew it together, but if you're not a confident sewer, this is a very short distance that can be hand stitched very easily. So we would just figure out where that fabric needs to fold right there, create the seam, and hand stitch it later. So right now I'm just going to put a temporary staple in that fold to hold it there. And this is just to where everything gets smoothed out completely across the surface, and anything that needs tightening up can happen when you hand stitch it. I'm going to put a temporary staple here. Now, if my physics is right, that is going to land in the same spot on the other side. But before we do that, I'm going to pre-tuck this into the side, and then I have to make a Y cut for this part of the frame. Let me turn it to the side. For this part of the frame in front, so that that little panel can pop out this side and we can pull it taut across the face that way. Okay. So I got the fold in there. I'm going to pre-tuck it down to that arm. And then this is where you can like put your hand down in the frame and you can feel both sides of that arm. I can feel it from here, but I can also see it in the back. So I'm gonna make a Y cut for this part of the arm that goes right there. And I'm just putting my fingers there to control it. And you can always cut more, but you can't cut less. This little triangle is gonna end up folding up under there. And then this panel can now tuck through the side. And we should be able to tighten everything on the front up to get no wrinkles. And some of that has to happen like as we move about the chair. And I do think we've got a little bit, it's buckling right here in front of the leg, which means that we can cut our cut a little bit longer. So I'm going to pull it out so I can see how much longer it has to be cut. And it looks like it actually has to come, the cut has to come over more. This was that one I told you I was struggling to get in the right spot early on. So I'm just going to keep that cut going to the left of that leg. And that will help me be able to pull this taut and wrinkle free on the other side. Okay. And now if you watch as I pull that panel, everything on the front starts to smooth out. I'm going to get another staple in up here to stretch it from bottom to top there. And then I'm going to pull this down. And I'm going to staple this panel that came through in the middle down here to hold it into place. And now my final temporary staple, I can pull all of this over from the side and stretch it till that wrinkle goes away. I'm pulling away from that staple. I'm also pulling everything down this corner. So there should be no excess material between this staple and the one before it. Again, temporary staple. Right now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 staples holding the face of this on. I'm not going to put in a bajillion staples until I get it put on all the way. So now this wrinkle or this pleat should land in the same spot as the other one. I'm going to take a step away to look. Looks good, except for it looks like this one goes more on an angle. So we're going to pull this one down a little bit more. Tuck it. It'll tighten after we get it. And then I'm going to put a staple in here, temporary. Perfect. Looking good. And now I can do the same thing on this side that I did over there, which is to make a Y cut for the part of the arm up here. If you're just joining in, this is almost the last in this series. We might do one more next Tuesday to do the wow. I don't know if I'll get to it today, but you can go back and watch the rest of these over on YouTube leading up to this point, so you can see how we did everything to get here. So I'm going to temporary staple before I make the cut this time. Hold that in place, and then I can literally see where to make that cut, that Y cut around this part of the arm. This is going to tuck under and around, and this part's going to come through the pull through. And out the bottom. That's looking awesome. Everything here will be able to get pulled out when we go to staple everything into place. And I can test that by pulling it to make sure that that indeed happens when I pull it. If it doesn't happen when you pull it to its tightness, then you're going to have to go back in and make some adjustments. Chances are your cuts are not in the wrong place. Let me get one more staple here, temporary. And then we're going to flip it down and we're going to put a bajillion staples in it. That's the next step. So we've got it all stretched out into place. Everything is nice and taut. All of these little micro wrinkles will come out when we go to staple everything into place. I'm going to tip it back and we're going to start stapling it from the center out all the way down one side. Then we're going to go back to the center and go out all the way that side. That's going to allow that fabric to stretch out evenly across the surface. If you were to start in one area, go in a circle and get to the other area, that fabric is going to twist on you. So this is going to help keep it nice and straight. Yeah, you can help me with this. Tip it. What I need.
I got some 1 inch.
I see it. What was that noise my throat just made? Okay, cameras. Let's get creative with these camera angles. Oh, that's too close. These are catching. This one? This one. No, I just need it pointed down.
You're gonna plug it.
Oh. Does it go higher or is that it?
Yeah.
Huh? I need it to go a little higher, like up here. Can you tip this down? There we go. Yay! That's exactly what I need. Okay. Thanks for being patient, guys. I'm going to put this in the long form content. You won't even know any of this happened. I will, in just a little while, go in and look for comments. So if you have questions, put them in. Even if you don't get the answer while you're here today, you'll be able to go back and watch the recording and you'll be able to get the answer that way. Okay, so now look at how nice and taut everything is between staples. It's a little more taut here than it is on this side, so I'm sure we're going to figure out what that issue is when we get there. But I want to get all my staple removers ready. You're never not going to need a staple remover. Hi there. How can I help? A whole bunch.
Upholstery material.
Yeah, go ahead and have a
That's
look.
all this.
Sure.
$15
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah. Everything in stock is $15 a yard. Everything in the books is whatever the book price is. It's usually very much higher. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm right over here. My husband, Crosby, he's spinning around here somewhere too. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're going to work our way from the center out, and our staples are all going to go right up near the wood in, like, they're going to be end for end staples. They're going to be touching each other as we go. That's why we make sure that this is all stretched out before we start doing that, because especially on this type of frame, the staples are more difficult to remove. So I'm I can use this wiping motion, I can use this pulling motion, but I'm also keeping an eye on the lines here to make sure that those all stay straight. And again, I'm pulling up and away from that staple. And now I'm using permanent staple. There's someone in the fabric side cross. There's someone on the fabric side. You want to be very careful of the direction you put the staples in. You want them to go straight down. If you go up this way, you're going to be stapling up into that show wood, and that could split it. If you go too far that way, it can blow out the back side. This one has got a wide enough area. I'm not worried about blowing out the back side. Plus, it has a cover on the back, so you wouldn't see it if it did. So I'm going to just keep working my way around. And as I get closer to this other staple, I can see this little baggy bit right here. And I don't want to see a baggy bit, so I'm not going to give up all hope right now. I'm just going to take out that temporary staple that I had in there, and I'm going to readjust. And I'm just going to work my way down to the next staple. Just going end for end. I'm pulling out this way so that it's pulling away from both of the anchored stapled sides. And it's getting a little more loosey-goosey. You can see a lot of that extra material is going down that way. This staple hit another staple, so it ricocheted right out. So if you're wondering what happens when you staple on a staple, that's what happens. And I'm just pulling this fabric out and bringing the staple down to it. Let me see if I can get up this one. And it did almost work itself out right there. I just got this little wrinkle. I'm going to pull that staple out, and I'm going to keep working my way down. If also you have like a tight area where it looks like it's pulling tighter than the rest, you can take that staple out and then replace it with another staple after it relaxes and goes back to shape. So I'm just trying to make sure that this line stays smooth around the edge and that I'm pulling it nice and taut like a trampoline. And if you keep those staples in line with each other using the edge of this wood as your guide, it's going to be way easier to trim that out and then make it look nice and clean with trim, because it stays nice and flat. Like you can't even see that line of staples right there. Now this temporary staple is a little outside of the line, so I will go back in and remove that in a minute. But I'm just going to work my way down the arm. And I'm pulling this material too, just harder to get to in this little area. So I'm going to take this temporary staple out because it's also a little loosey-goosey in front of that. And I only, like, everything holding your pull throughs down is just one staple, so I can go back in and tighten up from top to bottom that way when I'm done. You'll want to change position when it gets uncomfortable, and you can also change the position of the gun in your hand so that you can reach better. Never try to go out of your way to reach something if it's uncomfortable, because it's not going to go well. And this is where a long nose is going to benefit us, because I wouldn't be able to reach down there with a short nose stapler. That side's all done. Everything looks nice and smooth. So now I can go back through and I can go the other way around. Everything looks great here. I'm not going to remove any fabric yet because anything can happen back and forth. And don't be afraid to remove out staples if you don't get a perfect look. We've set everything up to give you a perfect look. This staple went a little farther away from the side. I'm going to take that out. Let me find my pliers. If you're joining me, either TikTok or Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, and you don't like the angle you see, try the other platforms, because every platform has got a different angle right now, because I couldn't get my OBS to work. So we're on several devices. Okay. I'm way better at this side than this side, so bear with me. Getting closer to that first temporary staple. And we've got a little bit of a wrinkle here, so I'm going to take that temporary staple out. And we're just going to keep working our way down to the next one. We got a little bit of a wrinkle here. Before the next temporary staple, so we're going to take that temporary staple out. So now we can keep going. And the back panel of this fabric is going to go on the same exact way. Always good to make sure you're not accidentally stapling through the wood. You don't want to get too far and realize that you have been stapling through the wood this whole time. Like that staple right there, definitely through the wood. Ugh.
What happened?
I stapled through the wood in one spot. But it can be repaired if that happens. Where are we? Luckily, we just do temporary staples, so it makes it easier to remove. And I like to use this double rack staple remover whenever I'm removing staples next to show wood, because it's just less aggressive than most of them. I got 2 of them there in the wrong spot. So that is an area we're going to have to touch up, fill that hole and touch it up before we're finished with the chair. All right. Whew. It's hot in here. Let me go around the other side to see better. And we're just going to keep working our way down. Oh gosh. Ugh. Oh, there's just one there. Okay. We got one up real high here. Looks like we're good with the rest. And I just want to double check and make sure that I'm stretching this to capacity as I work my way around the arm this way, and that I can feel that show edge. I see a little bit of a wrinkle here, so I'm going to stretch this up in the corner area. See if I can pull that out with this stretch. And then go ahead and lock a staple in up there. Good. Oop, we got another one in the wood over here. We get a little too close on the end here. That'll give us an opportunity to go in here, make sure this little triangle is folded down. Perfect. Double check that side. Good to go. Now we can cut out all of the excess using the super sharp razor blade. And again, I haven't solidified everything that comes through the bottom yet. I can do that last to make sure everything tightens up, but this looks great. There's no twisting, no turning. Everything is smooth. I have one little staple I can get rid of there. That one came from underneath the fabric. Thanks, Mara. Now we can remove all the excess material. What we're going to be doing is gliding this razor blade right next to the show wood, right here. And that's going to trim it right up to where we need it. Now, you will probably go through a lot of razor blades for this, especially if you hit a staple. It's going to make your razor blade go dull immediately. And when the fabric starts to fray, it's time to change your blade. Time to change my blade. So I'm just going to flip it over. Just keep working my way over. Until I remove all that excess material. Get everything up to the middle done. And I hit another staple, so it looks like I need another blade. Thank you. And you can go just a couple inches at a time. You don't have to go net. Well, I can't see down there to make that last cut, so I'm gonna wait till we set it up so I can see it properly. I'm just gonna go around the other side. And you'll notice all the batting, everything is tucked away. You can't see anything sticking out. And that's what's going to make it your trim go on nice and clean because of how we applied all the material that had to go on here. Stacking it and grading it. Uh-oh. Some of these staples got a little far away, but I'm not sure it's going to make a difference because our welt is going to cover that up. They're just like a staple width away. Okay, I'm ready to flip this up so I can see the seat of it better. How's it going, Brooke? Hard work? You're going to be working for me soon and you're going to tear apart a chair that quick. Okay. All right. What else we got? All right. Now I can see a little better. These staples are actually, well, maybe just those couple, kind of far away from that edge, maybe too far away. So I think we're going to have to fix that. And the rest of it's kind of tucked down between two cushions. I'm going to have to get in there with a pair of scissors. And then I'm going to fix. You can see all the batting and stuff sticking out here because the staples came back too far. All right, let me get the other side and then I can fix it. Okay, now just because you stapled too far doesn't mean it can't be undone. You can see where I put all those staple holes there. That's going to have to get filled with wax and then touched up with stain. And I'm leveraging my tool off the upholstered part, not the wood part, because I don't want to scratch up the wood. It is a very narrow area. And I'm gonna so that I can leverage off of the wood, I'm putting a piece of fabric in between it so I can get underneath that staple because I don't want to leave a dent or a mark. This one's just going to come right out. That one's going to come out. That bottom one looks good. Okay, where's my pliers? There they are. Okay. Now I can clear all this bulky batting out of the way. I'm going to have to trim it with scissors. You don't want to have batting sticking out where you're going to put your trim because it is not going to look good. And it won't cover up well. One more staple I can take out there, I think. Fabric. Here we go. Yeah, one staple that's just down a little too far here. Ooh, maybe more than one. Just back at it. Surgery. Okay, now I can bring that fabric right back up to the edge. Get rid of all of that fluffy batting. Okay, much cleaner. So now we can finish up the pull throughs on the back. I'm going to do that from behind so that you guys can see how it tightens everything up. If you can see it, it's pretty tight right now. So I'll be in the back. You guys watch closely from the front. Tell me if you can see any different. I'm going to undo the staples that I had anchoring down, and then I'm just going to re-pull everything. I'm going to start in this area, and I'm going to work my way out so we can pull out any wrinkles we get along the way. Ooh, more staples. Everything okay?
Yeah, that one name that always gets
Oh,
dropped off.
I see a little bit of twisting up here, and that is the direction that this fabric is being pulled in. So I'm gonna take a couple of staples out at the top. I don't know what she's doing. So it's twisting up this way, so it has to pull this way. So I'm going to take staples out from where the top of that wrinkle starts all the way down to where the rest of them stop. And then I'm going to stretch it out in that direction. This is not ideal if you've already put 100 staples in here, which I have, but we can fix it. And I want to fix it because it's an easy fix. Most people probably wouldn't notice it, and if this is your first chair and it's for yourself, and removing staples at this stage will make you cry, you can go ahead and leave it. But if you want to get good, you get paid more money, the better your stuff looks. So you may as well go in and remove a few staples. All right. Let me see if that's enough. Now I can tell if it's enough if I can pull it all up in that direction and it straightens it out. I've got a little bit of excess here, but I can get it to that point. And then take out a couple here so that I can straighten it up there. And I think I'm just going to be able to pull this up and out. So I'm going to take the staples out from right up to here. Oof, I can't see from that side. All right, here's my fabric. Okay, I can get those two out and I might be good to go. One more here. All right. One more. All right. Now I think we got it. I'm just going to smooth it up as I staple. We got one more teeny tiny little wrinkle right here. One more staple is gonna do it. Okay, now I just have a little bit of excess material I gotta cut off in that area. I think I need a new blade because it's not cutting.
These are
Okay, I think I still have a flip here. Oh yeah, that one's sharp. I'm just going like a couple of short increments at a time because I'm terrified to mess it up at this stage. Seam neater and tidier, but the welt's gonna fill in that whole area, so you won't see this as much. I just want to get it as close as I can so it doesn't stick outside of that show wood. Okay. So now that one's locked down on the side, and I'm going to pull through the middle area. Here and here locked down. I'm going to remove a staple back there. These are much more visible on camera than they are in person. There we go. And this last bit here, then our whole front is on. We can work on closing up the back. And that'll take us to 2. Perfect front. Let's back it up a little bit. I'm gonna need you to cut me some barrier fabric and then some batting and fabric. Looks good. Now these areas will get hand stitched when we're done, and any little like wrinkling that you see there, we can pull tight at the last minute. Maybe we'll end up having to remove a staple, tuck that in, but I think we're in good shape. Everything looks nice and smooth up here. All the lines are smooth. Now we need to put the outside panel on and close it up. I'm going to turn this around so you can see what we've done. There we go. So everything that we brought through to the frame stapled here at the bottom of the frame, but to the top of the bottom of the frame, so that everything like stays on nice and tight. We don't want to put anything on the side because this is show wood. The next layer of material we have to put on here is a barrier fabric that creates the barrier for the batting and the fabric that has to go on there so that it doesn't push through the frame. And that has to be long enough to staple up here to the top, down here to the bottom, plus 4 inches, and wide enough to go to the widest point over here to one side, all the way over to the other side, plus 4 inches. That's going to give you 2 inches on each side to be able to pull with your hands, and that's important. So this is going to be the same length of material for the barrier. The batting is also going to be this big, and so is the fabric. Okay, so top to bottom, 26 inches plus 4 inches, we got 30. 30 inches top to bottom, all the way around to the widest width. 33 plus 4 inches, 37. So 30 inches by 37 inches is what we're looking to cut. Cross. Oh, you're getting the barrier fabric? 30 by 37 for everything. What do you got?
30 by 37.
Oh, I didn't know you had that. Yeah, for everything. Okay, while that's getting cut, I'm going to check out the question section and see if you guys have any. Oh, don't look at the top of my head. Good Lord. I've got TikTok and Instagram. Hi, Kit. Kit's live. If you guys are here and you're enjoying it, we don't have many people on here, but if you're learning something, just tap the screen as violently as possible, and that will give me likes. It's been a few weeks since I've been on live, so it's kind of a ghost town here. All right, I'm going to go TikTok first. I'm going to go all the way to the top, and I'm going to see if we have any questions. So far, I do not see any. Thanks, Miss Chief, for the gift. I appreciate it. Gifts are great, you guys, but tapping to like it actually serves me a lot better. I get fractions of pennies of the gifts that you send, but when you guys are liking and engaging in the comment section, it is sending all of my content out through the For You page and everywhere else, even on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and that's how people find what it is that I do for a living, which is teach upholstery and furniture restoration. I do not see any questions on TikTok. Let's check Instagram. None on Instagram. Okay, just in time to put on some barrier fabric. So just like everything else, this material goes on attached in the center first, and then center top to bottom, then side to side we're going to stretch it, and then corner to corner, corner to corner. We're going to stretch it out with some temporary staples first, and then we're going to go back in and litter it with staples after. So I just sort of found the center so that I can lock it in the center at the top. And you can use a temporary staple if you like. Temporary staple is, instead of going flat down like this, you can tip it to the side, and that's going to put a little bit of a gap underneath your staple so you can get under there with a tool and remove it without damaging your material if you need to. So I'm just pulling this tight like a trampoline all the way down to the bottom. Ooh, too tight. to the bottom where it's going to attach. Sometimes you could pin this up to the sides if it's in your way, but I'm about to get it out of my way. So. Okay, one there, and now I can stretch down here at the bottom. The goal is to get everything nice and taut across the surface. So I'm going to put my first one in. It's going to be a little difficult for you guys to see everything yet. And again, this is staying away from the edges of the show wood because the only material that goes right up, right up to the edge of the show wood is going to be the fabric itself. So now I'm stretching this across the surface in the back. I'm going to put a staple down here. Now I can go up here and do this corner, which might need to make a relief cut. It's sort of giving me a bunch of tension right here. I'm kind of towards the armpit, unique to this shape of chair because it has to go up that way and down this way. I'm just going to make a relief cut right there. So that way I can come back in here, stretch this corner out from this staple as well as that staple and make it nice and taut. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to make a relief cut. Knock this down in the corner. And now I have center, center, corner, 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 corner on that side. And now I can start working my way from the center out, tightening everything up around as I go. And these staples are going to be diagonal, and they're going to be every ½ inch all the way around. And I'm stretching everything between away from that staple and out so that I'm stretching away from both of these staples. And I just keep checking to make sure I'm not stapling into the show wood. Now this layer I can see through, so it makes it a little bit easier than the rest. You're not always going to be able to see through your layers. So I'm getting a little bit of bunchiness. I'm going to fix that by locking one in the bottom. Thank you, my love. And this, I'm getting excess material this way as I move forward, so I'm probably going to end up having to remove that staple as I go. That's okay. That's why we put the temporaries in there. I'm going to take that out now before I get too deep into the wood. So I'm removing this staple here. Because this fabric is twisting up, I got to pull it down so that it doesn't wrinkle there. Now I'm free to do that. Okay. Got everything taut in between, so now I can go fill in the gap. I'm going to wait to do the bottom half so I get this other side up. I don't want to get too bunchy. I'm going to put anchor staple right here. That way I can just stretch between these distances and not have to work so hard to wrestle with it. Oh, we pulled this one out. Just working my way up and down till I get to a more manageable position, like right over here. And then fill in the gaps. And the last bit of the gaps I gotta fill in are right along the bottom. There are some relief cuts. You can see it curling up here. I'm gonna make relief cuts right near the legs. Just so everything will lay flat when I stretch it. So now I can go from the center work my way out. Same thing over here. And then I can cut away all that excess material. Just filling in some last minute gaps. And then I can trim away everything right up to the staples. We're going to be putting a lot more material on this. And we need a little bit of a gap up near that show edge for our fabric so that our trim will sit tight. This one got real close. And then the batting is going to go on the same exact way. The same size material, tallest height plus 4 inches to pull, widest width plus 4 inches to pull. All 3 materials, barrier, batting, and fabric, are going to be cut to the same measurement. This is the staple. Oh, my staples over here too. Keep going, Brooks. Just keep going till there's nothing on it. Down to the wood. Yep. Last panels, I do think we will close this up today, but we're definitely not going to get to the trim. So next Tuesday is the last day. We'll do the trim and I'll show you how to patch up those staple holes that we accidentally put in the frame. Oh, we missed a whole bunch of staples over here. You don't want gaps between the staples because then it won't hold very well. All right. I think this will actually be easier to access now if I tip it this way so that the back is on top and I can leverage my staples a little bit easier. So I'm gonna get my foam out. I think this whole thing is gonna come back. I don't even think the wood touches in the. Okay. Get these back in place. This one's done. Tic-tac is over.
Those 30-minute session.
What's that?
30 minutes.
This has been almost 2 hours, but my TikTok phone died. We're still on Instagram and YouTube and I'm just gonna move this. It's okay. We still got Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Okay, let's find the center of this. So we can center it at the side. I want to double check, make sure this is gonna hit. That looks good. This is gonna hit. That looks good. Okay, so now I'm gonna do center staple near the bottom here. Stretch this nice and taut and do another center staple near the top. And I'm gonna stretch over to the arm and do a staple to hold the arm over that way. Same thing on the other side. And now I can do one up here in the corner, pulling up and away from all the other staples. And do another one over this way. Well, I'm going to make a relief cut so that I can lift this and see what I'm doing. I'm putting another staple right here by the armpit. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And then I'll be able to go through and fill in the gaps. This one's pretty much directly across from the other. How's that? Is she okay? Okay, so now we're going to go around, fill in the gaps. Every half inch. And these staples, because they're getting covered by another layer of materials, are going at an angle because that's going to cover more surface area. It's also going to hold that batting down flat so that I can get a nice clean trim in that area. Excuse me. Is there water across? I'm feeling for the edge of the frame with my finger and making sure I keep a little bit of a gap. Sorry, microphone. I was thirsty. I'm peeking every time because I don't want to make the same mistake I did on the front. Okay, I'm gonna work my way from the middle out this way. So I'm gonna stop at the same point and then I'll work my way down the sides. If I use the edge of the show wood as a guide, then my lines stay nice and clean and symmetrical too. Or at least how that frame's supposed to look. Hope you're soaking all this in, Brooks, because I'm not going to go over it again. I'm just messing with you. You have show wood too. Whew. Now I just got the arms to do on either side. One side done. Do the other one, then across the bottom, and then we're going to remove all the excess material, and then we're gonna, what time is that? We still got time to put on fabric. So fabric is next, and that goes on the same exact way. So you have these two opportunities to practice getting this right before you get to the part that scares you the most, which is cutting and stapling through your fabric. Okay, now the bottom. Just gonna establish a couple of where my lines are. If you do this right, you can play connect the dots. All right, time to trim, and this is gonna get trimmed right up to the staples. I don't want any of these fluffies sticking out of where my trim goes. So we're gonna get rid of all of the excess material. A lot of people will cut it to this point, and you'll see a lot of fluff right there. We don't wanna see any of that fluff curling over. We're gonna trim it right up to the staples. It's just like kind of like cutting hair, like shaving a head. Or shearing a sheep. I don't know. We're getting rid of all the fuzzies. I'm going to start to see this a little bit better here. So for people watching on YouTube, this is how close we want it to get. A lot of people just cut it to here and it leaves like a little rolled over edge. We don't want that rollover edge. We want to cut that all the way off. All the way up to the staple. It looks like I got a rogue staple on this side I gotta take out. And there's still a little bit of a gap between the show edge and the edge of the wood, which is going to allow us to keep a nice clean line for our trim when we go to glue it in later. That's how close we need it. So you shouldn't see any of these fluffies sticking out when you go to staple your fabric on. And when we staple the fabric on, my staples are going to go straight along the show edge of the wood. And that's going to conceal them even more and make it easier to cover up with the trim. Because we're just doing a single welt on this, not a double welt. But if you got crazy with the staples and a single welt doesn't cover up your staples, a double welt is fully acceptable. All right, one last piece, and then we're ready for fabric. And then that's as far as we're going to be able to get today. I have a lot of stuff going on today. Looking good. All right, so now we're ready to do the fabric. Did we get that cut, Crosby? Did we get the fabric piece cut? They're green velvets on a roll on the fabric rack back there. While we're waiting, I'm gonna check the comments on Instagram. I don't see any. No, it's on a roll. It's inside out. Should look white. There was a rogue staple over here somewhere. Where did it go? There it is. Let's get that out while we wait. There we go. And I can trim that. Make sure I get everything trimmed back good enough. You could just cut it to 30 inches tall. You can keep it the length of the width of the fabric. I just need 30 inches in height. Yeah. While we have this flipped over, one of the things we are going to do is reinforce the jute webbing on the bottom. This is still in great shape, but it's a little older, so it's sagging a little bit, but the spring tying, everything on the inside is awesome. And the client wanted to keep this as original to the existing materials as possible because it's a family heirloom and a family member reupholstered it last. So they want to keep the integrity of the traditional upholstery on the inside. We're just redoing everything on the outside. Ooh, Well, let's get this in a different position while we wait. And check our stapler. Make sure it has staples. Ready for another. And in just a minute, Krause will be here with the fabric. So there's a couple areas that got to get touched up here. That usually is the case. It's hard not to make a nick or a mark as you go, especially in some of these older pieces. Wish I could see my comment section on the screen. Here comes the fabric. And this is going to get attached the same way that we did everything so far. Center here, arm there, corner here, corner here, corner there, corner there. Get it all stretched out before we put anything on. We did that with the barrier fabric. We did it with the batting, and now we're going to do it again with the fabric. Thank you, my love. And before we attach anything, we want to make sure that fabric is going in the right direction. We want it to wipe down from the top of the chair to the bottom of the chair. And right now it's wiping up. So that is the opposite direction that we want. We're going to flip it over and flip it so that it smooths out when we go top to bottom. So I'm going to find center first. I just fold it in half. I'm making a little snip at the top. That's going to give me a little arrow as a guide. I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom. Fold it in half, corner to corner. Make a little snip on that fold. And that gives me an arrow at the bottom so that I can see where to line it up. Let me double check my direction. Smooth, good. I'm going to put my bottom staple in first, because it's furthest away from me. And this staple is going straight across the show edge of the wood. When they're all said and done, they will be end for end, which means they will be touching each other. They'll staple, 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 staple all the way across. We're just stretching up from that staple. Temporary staples are good at this stage because they're easier to take out. Again, that is if you're going flat like this, you're going to tip it just a little bit so to leave a little gap underneath that staple. Oh, I might have not brought this low enough. Might be just low enough. I'll put another here. And then we're going to go to the other side. Now I'm trying to stretch it tight like a trampoline across as well as up and down. And now that I've got those two corners done, I can stretch it up into the corners this way. Stretching away from this staple as well as away from that staple to get everything nice and taut. One on that side. And if you end up finding yourself stapling everything and there are loosey-goosey parts, you can just take these temporary staples out as you go, which is why we don't put them all in right away. Okay, so I want to do one by the armpits here too. I'm gonna stretch all of this out. You can see how I can get everything nice and taut now. And I want to feel for that edge. There we go. Now I'm going to do a relief cut up to that point because I can't see what I'm doing. I'm not going to go all the way to the staple just in case I didn't go far enough. Now we're going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to reach up in there, find out where my staple goes. And stretch this out away from all of the staples. And I think this one's going to end up needing to be removed because it's staying a little wrinkly up there at the side. So this one's going to come out. So I can stretch that one a little bit better this time. And get rid of any of the wrinkles in between this staple and this staple. Much better. It's pretty close. It was just like a little smidge up. Okay, temporary or a relief cut through here. And now I think I can work my way around. So now I'm gonna go, I've got all these temporary staples holding everything nice and taut. So everything's nice and taut across the center. So I'm gonna work my way from the center out both sides, one side at a time. And again, I'm going right next to that show edge. And my staples are going end for end, which means they're touching each other as I work my way around. And if I come to an area where I start to get wrinkles, I can take that staple out and work my way down. Okay. This one is going to be okay. Well, yeah, now it's getting a little loosey-goosey. I'm going to work my way from here up to this way so I can kind of see where the problem area is. And I'm pulling out in this direction as I go. Hold on, my cord's caught up. You can start to see I have a little bit of loose material here. It's something I might be able to pull out, but I think I'm going to have to remove some staples in this area. If you're lucky, you can feel the edge of that show wood. Sometimes you can. I think this is going to pull out. So now we're come to this little area where just a little wrinkle is. I'm going to take my staples from here back, which would take me to the top of that wrinkle to the bottom, because I think this area I can pull out through here. Now these are not temporary staples, so they're a little bit more difficult to get out. One more. Okay, so now I should be able to get the rest of that. Perfect. Now I can work my way down this arm all the way down this way. Let's chew, people. We keep stretching as we go. And I'm gonna cut away some of this material so I can see, because there's a bunch of it. Don't cut away too much. Oop, I'm gonna anchor it down by the legs here because I'm about to rob myself of fabric. So this staple is a little off now. Take that out, see how much extra material we have here. And because I'm so close at the bottom, I'm just going to go ahead and finish wrapping the bottom around so I don't accidentally take too much away from myself there. Yeah. Don't do that. That's ours. So we got real close. Oops. And this area is going to need a fold, so I'm going to stop short of that fold just so I can work it out when I get there. And work my way the rest of the way over from the top. And now I'm close to where that fold needs to go. I'm going to leave that. Eventually we're going to cut all this excess off, and I'll deal with the fold when I get there. Oh, running out of steam. Gotta wait for that air to fill up. There's actually... Ooh. What you got?
Prices.
Okay. So the Charlotte Fabrics prices are right on the back of the book. So this one's $50.90 a yard. This one looks like it's $98 a yard. And 60 something a yard. Just show her those prices.
This is 90.
98. Just flip that down and you'll see it. Okay. Almost done, guys. Almost done. Let's wrap this up. How'd that go? I'm probably gonna need some staples here in a second. Nope.
Wrong ones?
Thank you. Whew. It's hard to feel that lid. Oh, I forgot the bottom. Let's do that bottom. And we'll get closer to that point. All right, now we're coming here close to the edge. We got to fold on both of these sides we got to do. Then we're going to call it quits for the day. Oh gosh, I just blasted too many staples right there in not the right area. You going? Yeah, Evelyn? Okay. Okay, let's take these out gently. I forgot to bring YouTube. As we get closer to here, this material is going to need to fold over and cover that area. Right about there is good. Now I can trim that right up to there. This just needs to fold and cover this area, but I want to be consistent. I'm going to take it right up to the center with the fold, so it just has to be a little longer than that. Then I can get a fold straight up and down in that area. It's very close to the edge there. Right around the bottom of that iron. Oh, geez. No. That's a little deeper than I would want it to go, but that little edge is so faint. My welt will cover that area up. Whatever is the width of a finger, it'll cover that up. Let's do the same thing to the other side, shall we? Oh, geez. Nope. Take this down a little further. make a cut right up to that staple. I'm gonna work the bottom first because it's so narrow, so close. And work my way around there. So now I can take my razor blade and trim everything off right to the staples. But we don't have time to do that today. I'm going to do that off camera. You tried, but you're right on camera.
Oh.
You're standing right there. All right. That's Rossi, everyone. Everyone say hi to Rossi. Okay, that's it. Done for today. Last thing we have to do is trim that off. And then next Tuesday when we come, we're going to glue the welt to it. And that is going to be the end of this chair. It'll be ready to go home to its owner. Thank you guys for joining me today. My name is Kim. I'm with Lolco. I teach upholstery and furniture restoration from my design studio here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And this was how to reupholster a Spoonback chair. Join me next week to finish it up and we'll be all done. We'll see you guys later.